him after the attack. So framing him was planned, right?
He leaned over the counter, grinning. I told them you did it. Enjoy prison. I didn't raise my voice. I just said, okay. We were standing inside a police station. Fluorescent lights buzzing, an officer watching us like this was already decided. My hands were still shaking from what had just happened, from what I'd seen. My own brother had walked in and pinned it all on me. Not a hesitation, not a slip. A clean, confident lie like he'd planned it. Go ahead, Marcus added. Louder now. Ask him where he was. The officer turned to me, pen ready. Then I spoke slow, controlled. Before I answer, you already checked the parking lot cameras, right? The officer's expression changed. And for the first time, my brother stopped smiling. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. The officer straightened a little. Like something in the room had just shifted without him fully understanding why. His pen hovered above the notepad, no longer moving. What cameras? He asked. I didn't look at him right away. I kept my eyes on Marcus. Up close, I could see it, that tiny crack, the way his jaw tightened just a fraction, like he was recalculating. Anyone else might have missed it. I didn't. The parking lot, I said, finally turning to the officer. The entrance. You guys usually pull that first, right? Detective Ramirez, his name tag, caught the light when he shifted, glanced toward the hallway behind him, then back at me. His earlier confidence, the almost casual assumption that this was already wrapped up, started to fade. We're in the process of collecting footage, he said carefully. Why? Marcus let out a short laugh, too quick. Because he's stalling, he cut in. That's why. He's good at that talking in circles, trying to sound smart. I didn't respond to Marcus. Not yet. Instead, I leaned forward slightly, resting my forearms on the counter, forcing my hands to stay still. The shaking hadn't completely stopped, but I had control of it now. Enough. Because timing matters, I said, and I want to make sure we're all talking about the same one. There was a pause. Not long, but long enough to feel... Ramirez studied me differently now. Not like a suspect who'd already been figured out. More like a problem he hadn't solved yet. Behind me, I could hear movement, another officer passing by, a phone ringing somewhere deeper in the station, muffled voices talking about a victim, paramedics, something about still unconscious. Marcus shifted beside me, impatient. You're overcomplicating this, he said, his tone sharpening. He was there. That's it. That's all you need. I let out a slow breath. I never said I wasn't there. That landed. The officer's pen touched the paper again. So you admit you were at the scene? Yes. Marcus's smile came back, but it was thinner now. See? He said quickly. There you go. He just said it. But Ramirez didn't look at Marcus this time. He kept his eyes on me. Then explain, he said. I nodded slightly, like I'd been expecting that. I got a call, I said, from him. I tilted my head toward Marcus without looking, told me to meet him, said it was urgent. Marcus scoffed. Yeah, because I knew something was wrong with you. I cut him off, calm. You said you needed help. That shut him up for a second. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it landed harder than anything he'd said so far. Ramirez's eyes flicked between us. What kind of help? I hesitated, not because I didn't have an answer, but because I could feel the moment tightening. Every word mattered now. He didn't say, I replied, just that I needed to get there, fast. Marcus shook his head, already stepping back into control. He's twisting it, he said. I called him because I was worried about him. He's been off. You can check, talk to people, coworkers, anyone. No, I said quietly. That stopped him again. The word wasn't loud, but it cut clean through everything he was trying to build. Ramirez leaned forward slightly. No? No, I repeated, finally turning to look directly at Marcus. Don't do that. For a second, neither of us spoke. There, it was the thing that had always been there between us. Not just anger, not just resentment, something older, a pattern. Marcus pushing, me absorbing it. Until now. He let out a breath through his nose, like he was annoyed this was taking longer than expected. You always do this, he muttered. You think you're smarter than everyone else in the room. I didn't react to that either. Instead, I looked back at Ramirez. When I got there, I said his car was already parked. Marcus's head snapped slightly toward me. Just enough. And? Ramirez prompted. And the driver's side door was open. The station noise seemed to dim again. Like everything was narrowing into this one conversation. Marcus crossed his arms. So what? That proves nothing. I didn't say it did, I replied. I could feel Ramirez watching me more closely now, tracking every word, every pause. What did you see when you got out of your car? He asked. That question hung there. For a moment, I didn't answer. Not because I couldn't, but because the image hit me again, sharper this time. The way it had looked, the way it hadn't made sense at first, and the way Marcus had looked when he turned around and saw me. I exhaled slowly. I saw someone on the ground, I said. Marcus didn't move. Male, I continued. Late 30s, maybe early 40s, bleeding, not moving. Ramirez's pen started moving again, faster now. And your brother? He asked. This time, I didn't answer right away. Instead, I looked at Marcus again. Really looked at him. The same person I'd grown up with. The same voice, the same face, just without the filter now. Without the charm he used on everyone else. Just calculation. He was already there, I said. Marcus let out a sharp laugh. Yeah, because I found him. And then you showed up, and what? You expect them to believe you just stood there and did nothing? I tilted my head slightly. I didn't say I did nothing. Another pause. Ramirez looked up from his notes. What did you do? I shifted my weight, finally straightening up a little. I called 911, I said, immediately. Marcus's expression flickered again. It was quick. But it was there? Ramirez caught it too. You called it in? He asked. Yes. He frowned slightly. Dispatch said the call came from a blocked number. I know, I said. I used a private line. Marcus stepped forward again, voice rising. Or he's lying, he snapped. This is what he does. He builds these little stories, tries to sound convincing. Marcus. Ramirez's tone changed. Not loud, but firm. Let him finish. That was new. Marcus went quiet, but not willingly. His jaw tightened again, his eyes flicking toward the hallway, then back to me. I could see it now. He wasn't just annoyed. He was watching for something. Timing something. I turned back to Ramirez. You should already have that call, I said, time-stamped. Ramirez nodded slowly. We do. And the footage, I added, from outside. He hesitated. Like I said, we're pulling it. I held his gaze. Then you'll see something, I said. Marcus shifted beside me again, faster this time. Yeah, he said, forcing a laugh. They'll see him pulling in. They'll see exactly what I said. I didn't look at him. I kept my eyes on Ramirez. They'll see when I got there, I said. A beat passed. And they'll see who was already inside. Silence. Not empty, heavy. Marcus didn't speak this time. Didn't laugh. Didn't interrupt. Ramirez's expression hardened, just slightly, like a decision was starting to form. He turned his head toward the back office. Hey, he called out, check status on that exterior footage. I want it as soon as it comes in. A voice answered from down the hall. Copy that. Marcus took a small step back. Just one. But it was enough. I finally turned to face him fully. Up close, the confidence was still there, but it was thinner now. Stretched. You said I did it, I said quietly. He didn't respond. You walked in here, I continued, and you were sure. His eyes locked onto mine. For a second, neither of us moved. Then I added, just as quietly. So why are you suddenly worried about what the cameras show? And this time, he didn't have an answer. Marcus recovered fast. Too fast. He let out a short, dismissive laugh and shook his head like I'd just said something ridiculous. I'm not worried about anything, he said, rolling his shoulders back. I'm just tired of him playing games. But his eyes didn't match his voice. They kept drifting toward the hallway, toward the officers moving in the background, toward anything that wasn't me. Detective Ramirez noticed it too. Let's keep this simple, Ramirez said, stepping closer to the counter. Both of you. He turned to Marcus first. You said you arrived, found the victim, and then your brother showed up and attacked him. That's your statement. Marcus nodded immediately. Yes. Clean. Direct. Practiced. Ramirez shifted his gaze to me. And you're saying you got a call from him, arrived after, saw the victim already down, and called 911? Yes. Same simplicity. But the difference was starting to show not in what was said, but in how it held up under pressure. Ramirez tapped his pen lightly against the notepad. Then, we have a timeline problem, he said. Marcus jumped in. No, we don't. He's just... What time did it happen? Ramirez cut in. Marcus blinked once, then answered quickly. Around 9:15. Maybe a little after. I didn't say anything. I just watched him. Ramirez wrote it down, then looked at me. And you? I took a breath. I got there at 9:22. Marcus scoffed. That's convenient. It's accurate, I replied. 7 minutes? Ramirez muttered, more to himself than to us. Marcus leaned forward again, regaining some of his earlier edge. Look, this isn't complicated, he said. He's trying to confuse things. You've seen this before, people over-explaining when they're guilty. I almost smiled at that. Almost. Then let's not overcomplicate it, I said. Let's stick to facts. Marcus's jaw tightened. Ramirez looked between us. All right, he said. Facts. I nodded once. You said 9:15. Marcus didn't hesitate. Yes. I tilted my head slightly. When you called me, what time was that? There it was again, that tiny pause. Right before, he said, like I told you. Right before 9:15? I asked. Yeah. I glanced at Ramirez. Check his phone. Marcus let out a sharp laugh. Go ahead, he said quickly. You'll see I called him. I'm not saying you didn't, I replied. That made him frown. I'm saying the timing won't match what you just said. The room shifted again. Ramirez straightened slightly. We can pull call logs. Marcus shrugged, but it was forced. Do it. I leaned back a little, finally letting some of the pressure ease off my shoulders, but only slightly. Because if you called me right before 9:15, I said calmly, then explain how I have the call time saved at 9:18. Silence. Marcus didn't answer. Didn't even try this time. His eyes flicked to me sharp, calculating like he was trying to decide if I was bluffing. I wasn't... Ramirez looked at him. 9:18? Marcus swallowed, then quickly pivoted. Fine, maybe I got the exact minute wrong. That doesn't change anything. It changes everything, I said quietly. He snapped back, irritation breaking through. No, it doesn't. It means, I continued, not raising my voice, you called me after you said the attack already happened. That landed harder than anything so far. Ramirez's pen stopped moving. And if that's true, I added, then your version doesn't just have gaps. I leaned forward slightly, meeting Marcus's eyes again. It puts you there alone. Marcus's composure slipped. Just for a second, but long enough. That's not what it means, he said quickly. You're twisting it. Then explain it, I replied. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. For the first time since he walked in, Marcus didn't have something ready. Didn't have control. Ramirez slowly closed his notepad. Yeah, he said, voice low now. Explain it. Marcus looked between us, me, the officer, the hallway where evidence was being processed. The confidence that had carried him in here was starting to fracture. And then, like he needed to regain ground fast, he reached into his pocket. I don't need to explain anything, he said, pulling out his phone, because I've got proof. He turned the screen toward Ramirez. A photo. My car. Parked near the scene. Timestamp visible. Marcus's voice steadied as he said, You wanted facts? There they are. Ramirez took the phone, studying the image. Then he looked at me. The room tightened again. Because now, it didn't look like a contradiction anymore. It looked like confirmation. And for the first time since this started, I was the one being cornered. The question didn't just hang in the air, it pressed down on it. Why is your car already there, before the time you just gave me? I didn't answer right away. Marcus watched me closely now, that earlier confidence creeping back in piece by piece, like he'd just found solid ground again. His shoulders relaxed, his breathing steadied. There it is, he said, almost under his breath, but loud enough. That's what I've been saying. I exhaled slowly, keeping my voice level. Can I see it? Ramirez hesitated for a second, then nodded to Marcus. Show him. Marcus didn't move at first, just held my gaze, like he was deciding whether giving it to me was a mistake. Then he smirked and stepped closer, turning the phone so I could see. My car. Same model, same color, same plate. Parked at an angle near the building entrance. Timestamp. 9:11 p.m. Earlier than everything I'd just said. Earlier than the call. earlier than the timeline I gave. I studied it for a few seconds longer than necessary. Then I nodded once. Okay, I said. Marcus let out a quiet laugh. That's it? That's your defense? I handed the phone back without reacting. That photo's real. Ramirez's eyes narrowed slightly. But? I shifted my weight. But it doesn't mean what he thinks it means. Marcus rolled his eyes. Of course it doesn't. I ignored him. When did you take that? I asked Marcus. Right after I got there, he said immediately. I told you. No, I said calmly. When did you take the photo? He hesitated. Not long, but enough. Around 9:12, he said. I nodded slowly, like I was confirming something. Interesting. Marcus's irritation flared again. What is that supposed to mean? I looked at Ramirez instead. Zoom in on the windshield. Marcus stiffened. Ramirez glanced at him, then back at me. Why? Just zoom in, I said. A beat passed. Then Marcus scoffed and took his phone back. Fine, he muttered, pinching the screen and enlarging the image. The windshield filled the display. Reflections, glare, streetlight, and then faint but visible if you knew where to look. Ramirez leaned in slightly. What am I looking for? He asked. I pointed. There, I said. Marcus didn't speak. Didn't move. Ramirez squinted. Is that? A parking permit, I said. Company issued. Ramirez glanced at me. So? So I didn't have that tonight. That landed, but not fully. Marcus shook his head immediately. That proves nothing. You could have taken it off, put it back. It's tied to a sensor, I cut in. RFID chip. It logs entry and exit times when it passes certain points. Ramirez's attention sharpened instantly. And your company tracks that? He asked. Yes. Marcus stepped forward again, more forceful now. This is ridiculous. You're letting him spin some technical story instead of focusing on what actually matters. He was there. I know he was there, Ramirez said without looking at him. Then, to me, are you saying your car was logged somewhere else? I'm saying, I replied carefully, that if that permit was on my windshield at 9 to 11, I let the sentence hang just long enough. Then my car had already gone through the building's entry system. Silence. Marcus's breathing changed. Subtle but faster now. Ramirez straightened. Which would mean? It would mean, I said, there's a record. Marcus shook his head quickly. Or he's lying about the system. You can call and check, I said. It's automated, time-stamped, not something I can fake from here. Ramirez glanced toward the hallway again, clearly weighing it. The room didn't feel settled anymore. It felt unstable. Marcus saw it too. You're seriously going to chase this? He said, frustration creeping into his voice, instead of doing your job? Ramirez turned back slowly. This is my job. That shut him up for a second. I took that moment. Also, I added, that photo. Marcus's eyes snapped back to me. What about it? He said. I met his gaze. You said you took it when you got there, I said. I did. Then why? I continued, voice steady. Does it show my car parked, but not yours? That hit harder than anything before. Marcus froze. Just for a second. But this time, everyone saw it. Ramirez's head turned sharply. Your vehicle wasn't in the shot? Marcus opened his mouth, then closed it. I parked further down, he said quickly. I nodded slowly. Further down, I repeated. So far that it's not visible from the same angle, but close enough that you noticed my car immediately. Marcus didn't respond. Didn't even try. Because now the story wasn't just cracking. It was starting to collapse under its own weight. Ramirez took a step back, looking between us again, only now the balance had shifted. All right, he said. We're pulling everything. Call logs, entry records, all of it. Marcus's voice sharpened. You don't need all that. Yes, Ramirez cut in firmly. I do. A beat of silence. Then footsteps approached from the hallway behind him. An officer stepped into view, holding a tablet. Detective, he said, we've got partial footage from the exterior. Ramirez turned immediately. And? The officer hesitated just slightly, then looked past him, toward us. You're going to want to see this. Marcus didn't move. Didn't breathe. And for the first time since this started, he looked like he already knew what was coming. Marcus didn't wait. What does it show? He snapped, stepping forward but not too close, like he didn't actually want to see it first. Detective Ramirez didn't answer him. He took the tablet, his expression tightening as his eyes moved across the screen. Not rushed, not confused. Focused. That was worse. I stayed where I was, watching both of them, watching Marcus more than anything, because this was the moment where confidence either holds or breaks. Ramirez tapped the screen once, then again, scrubbing through a few seconds of footage. Timestamp? He asked. 9:09 p.m., the officer replied. Earlier than everything. Marcus shifted his weight. Keep playing, Ramirez said. The video moved. Grainy, wide-angle parking lot lights casting long shadows across the pavement. A car pulled into frame. My car. No debate about that now. Ramirez glanced at me briefly, then back to the screen. Matches the photo, he said. Marcus exhaled through his nose like that settled it. Exactly. But Ramirez didn't stop the video. Wait, he said. He leaned closer. Back it up 2 seconds. The officer did. The car reappeared at the edge of the frame. Slower this time. More carefully watched. That's when it became obvious. Even from where I was standing, I could see it. The driver's side. The door opened. Someone stepped out. Not me. Different build, slightly taller, broader shoulders. The face wasn't clear, but the posture was. Marcus. No one said it out loud. But the silence said it anyway. Marcus didn't speak. Didn't even try. His eyes were locked on the screen now, like if he stared hard enough, it might change. It didn't. Ramirez straightened slowly. That's your brother's car, he said. Yes. And that's someone else driving it? I nodded once. Marcus finally reacted. You can't prove that's me, he said quickly. That footage is garbage quality. You were already there, I said, cutting across him. He turned toward me, sharper now. Stop talking like you know what happened. I do know, I said. Ramirez held up a hand. Enough. But he didn't take his eyes off the screen. Continue, he told the officer. The footage rolled forward. The figure Marcus stepped away from the car, glanced around quickly, then moved out of frame toward the building entrance. Alone. Timestamp ticking forward. 9:10. 9:11. Empty lot. No second car. No arrival. No version of the story where I was already there. Marcus took a step back. Then another. Subtle. Controlled. But it was movement away from the counter, from the screen, from the center of everything. Ramirez noticed. So, he said slowly, turning toward Marcus now, you told me you arrived, found the victim, and then your brother showed up. Marcus didn't answer. Except, Ramirez continued, gesturing toward the tablet, this shows you arriving, alone. I told you, Marcus said, voice tightening, that doesn't prove anything about what happened inside. No, I said quietly. They both looked at me. It doesn't. I took a step forward now, closing the distance just slightly. But it does prove something else. Marcus's eyes locked onto mine again. There was no confidence left in them now. Just calculation. Urgency. What? Ramirez asked. I didn't look away from Marcus when I answered. That he lied about when I got there, I said. And if he lied about that, I let this sentence hang. Ramirez picked it up. Then everything after that is questionable. Marcus shook his head immediately. Or he's manipulating the timeline. That's what he does. He works with systems, data. He could have. Interior footage is still processing, the officer interrupted. Everyone turned. From inside the building, he added, entry points, hallways. Ramirez's attention snapped into place. How long? Couple minutes. Maybe less. Marcus inhaled sharply. Too sharply. I heard it. So did Ramirez. Because this wasn't about the parking lot anymore. This was about what came after. What happened inside. And whether Marcus had been alone the entire time, Ramirez stepped closer to him now. Don't go anywhere, he said. Marcus forced a laugh, but it came out thin. I'm not going anywhere. I'm the one who came in here to report this. No one responded. The room felt different now. Not tense in the same way as before. Heavier. like something inevitable was closing in. I leaned slightly toward Marcus, just enough that only he could hear me. "You didn't think I saw you," I said quietly. His head turned fast, eyes wide for just a fraction of a second. That was all I needed. I straightened again as footsteps approached from the hallway, faster this time. The same officer, tablet in hand, but now his expression had changed. Not uncertain, not cautious. Certain. "Detective," he said. Ramirez turned. "We've got the interior footage." A pause. Then, "You need to see this." Marcus didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even try this time. Because whatever was on that screen, he already knew it would end everything. The video started without sound. Black and white footage, a fixed camera angle from inside the building lobby wide enough to see the entrance doors, the reception desk, and the hallway leading deeper inside. Timestamp, 9:10 p.m. Marcus stepped into frame. No hesitation, no confusion. He didn't look like someone who had just found anything. He looked like someone arriving with purpose. Detective Ramirez didn't speak. Neither did I. Marcus stood frozen beside me, his eyes locked on the screen, like if he didn't move, this could still be undone. The footage continued. Marcus walked across the lobby, fast but controlled, glancing once over his shoulder, not in panic, but in awareness. Then, he disappeared down the hallway. Timestamp ticked forward. 9:11. 9:12. Empty lobby. No one else entered. No second figure. No version of me anywhere near that timeline. Ramirez leaned slightly closer. "Skip ahead." The officer tapped the screen. The timestamp jumped. 9:17 p.m. Marcus reappeared. But this time, everything was different. His movement was rushed, shoulders tight, head turning quickly, scanning. There was something on his hands, dark, smeared. He wiped them against his jeans as he moved. Even from the grainy footage, it was unmistakable. Blood. No one said it. It didn't need to be said. Marcus staggered slightly toward the exit, then stopped halfway like he remembered something. He pulled out his phone, paused, then dialed. Ramirez's voice cut through the silence. "That's the call." I nodded once. 9:18. The timestamp confirmed it. Marcus stood there, phone to his ear, pacing slightly as it rang. Calling me. Not before. After everything had already happened. After the victim was already on the ground. After he was already covered in it. The video kept playing. 9:22 p.m. The doors opened again. This time it was me. I stepped inside, moving fast, eyes scanning immediately until they landed on Marcus. Even without sound, the moment was clear. Confusion. Recognition. Then something heavier, realization. Ramirez paused the video. The room was completely still. Every piece was there now. No gaps. No missing time. No version of events where Marcus's story worked. He didn't find the victim. He created the scene. And then called me into it. To stand in it. To take it. Ramirez slowly lowered the tablet. When he turned to Marcus, the tone in the room had fully shifted. "Do you want to explain this?" he asked. Marcus didn't answer. Didn't even look at him. His eyes were still fixed forward, but they weren't focused anymore. Not on the screen, not on anything in the room. He was somewhere else now. Running through it. Looking for exits. There weren't any left. "You said he attacked the victim after he arrived," Ramirez continued. "But this shows you were alone inside the building for over 7 minutes before you made that call." Still nothing. I finally spoke. "You didn't expect me to show up that fast," I said. Marcus's jaw tightened. "That got through. You thought you'd have more time," I continued. "Time to clean up. Time to figure out how to spin it." He let out a slow breath, shaking his head slightly. "You don't know what you're talking about." But it didn't sound convincing anymore. Not to Ramirez. Not to anyone. "I saw you," I said quietly. That made him look at me. Finally. Not with confidence. Not with control. But with something raw. "You turned around," I continued, "right there in the hallway. When I came in, you saw me and you knew exactly what you were going to do." The memory sat between us now. Clear. Unavoidable. You called me so I'd be part of it, I said. So I'd be there. So it wouldn't just be you. Marcus's voice dropped. You showed up. Because you told me to. That hit harder than anything else. Ramirez stepped in closer. Marcus Cole, he said, voice firm now, procedural, you're under arrest for aggravated assault, obstruction of justice, and filing a false report. The words landed with weight. Final. 2 officers moved in immediately. Marcus didn't resist, but he didn't cooperate either. He just stood there as they took his arms, like the fight had already drained out of him. As they started to pull him back, he looked at me one more time. There was no apology, no explanation, just one quiet, almost disbelieving question. You were just going to let this play out? I met his eyes. No, I said. I just knew you would. He didn't respond. They led him down the hallway the same direction he'd walked earlier in the footage. Only this time, there was no control in his steps. No plan left to execute. Just consequence. The room stayed quiet for a few seconds after he disappeared. Then Ramirez exhaled and looked at me. You stayed calm the entire time, he said. Most people wouldn't. I shrugged slightly. He expected me not to. Ramirez gave a small nod, like that answered more than I said. We'll need a full statement, he added, and you might be called in later depending on how this develops. I understand. He studied me for a moment longer, then extended a hand. For what it's worth, he said, you handled that better than most. I shook it once, firm, brief. Then stepped back. The station felt different now. Same lights, same noise, but the weight was gone. Not completely, but enough. As I walked toward the exit, I could feel my phone vibrating in my pocket, over and over. I already knew who it was. Family. They would have heard by now, or they would soon. Questions, doubts, maybe even hesitation about what to believe. That part hadn't caught up yet. But it would. I pushed the door open and stepped outside. The air was colder than I expected. Cleaner. For a moment, I just stood there, letting everything settle. Marcus inside. The truth out. No more versions, no more manipulation. Just facts. My phone buzzed again. I pulled it out, looked at the screen, multiple missed calls stacking up. I silenced it, slipped it back into my pocket, not avoiding it. Just choosing when, because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't reacting to him anymore. I wasn't cleaning up after him. I wasn't taking the weight of what he did that was his now, fully, completely. I started walking down the steps, away from the station, the early morning light just starting to break across the street. Behind me, doors opened and closed. Voices carried faintly, but none of it followed. And as I reached the sidewalk, one thought settled in, clear, steady, and final. He had walked in expecting me to panic, to break, to take it. Instead, he ran out of time, and I didn't have to say another word.
If you caught the clue that exposed Marcus, comment it. Most people completely missed it.